So when we talk about success, we're talking about faith, family, finances, and freedom. So I want to talk to us a little bit today about how we can be purposeful in each of those 4 areas. How we can not just drift through it, but very specific, tangible things that we can do to enable us to improve our lives. Because clearly, one of the clearest things that I hear from folks who come here, and then just in general, is, okay, I get it, I believe it, what can I do? What can I do? This is great, this is amazing, we're having fun, aren't we? But what do we do when we walk out those doors? So I just want to share a few of those things about how we can be purposeful. First of all, let's just talk about faith. How can you be purposeful about faith? You know, oftentimes parents will say, well, I don't really teach my children about faith. I just figured they'll just figure it out eventually, right? And there's a lot of folks that kind of live their lives that way. I'll let them figure that out. We don't let them figure out a whole lot of other things, but the most important thing in the world, we're going to let them just sort of, hey, figure it out. I believe that we need to be purposeful about that by bringing your faith into your home and establishing some traditions and things. And I know that there's some people who are much, deeper in their faith and they want to encompass more into their lives. But to whatever degree you want to increase your relationship with God and through your faith, be purposeful about it. Establish some traditions in your family. In the mornings when my wife and I get up, the very first thing we do is we get up, we make our coffee, of course. That's always the first thing we do. But then we will sit down and we read a chapter from the Bible. We read a chapter from the devotional. We pray for the day. And that's purposeful. It's purposeful. And then if we miss it, we'll say, oh, we got to get back to that because we're purposeful about it. Being purposeful about being involved in a community of faith. And I know some people are like, well, I can't really find a good church. Well, okay, keep looking. And here's the other thing. If you're looking for a perfect church and you find it, please don't go. You'll ruin it. People of faith have problems just like everybody else, but we need to be purposeful about getting involved in a community of faith because you know what? Together we make ourselves better. Just like a community of conservatives, together we're encouraged. Together we know we're not alone. I believe the same thing is true about a community of faith. The second one is family. How can we be purposeful about family? Well, very simple. For those of you who are married, date night. Being out and going out at least once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever your finances can afford. And you don't even have to spend a lot of money. You can go take a walk to the park or something. But some time where you're purposeful about giving your time and your focus to your spouse. Things with your children, being purposeful about being at your children's ball games. When I was traveling in my heyday, I was doing about 70 events a year. I know people in my business that do 150 events a year. And I always said 70 events is 140 days, and that's already too much away from my children. So I never took more than 70 events because I wanted to be home. And if I add them on, it becomes more and more time away from my family. So I coached my kids' games and teams, and I was at their gymnastics events and their dance recitals and those kinds of things. But it has to be purposeful. It has to be in your calendar. Little Johnny's T-ball game at this time and being there. Daddy-daughter dances, like all the kinds of things that we can be purposeful about in terms of family. When my children were growing up, we had no screen Sundays. They were not allowed to see anything on a screen. No TV, no phone, no computers, no nothing. Why? Because we were purposeful about establishing one day, and it wasn't even really a religious day because it was Sunday. It was because it was a weekend, really. And I wanted to take the kids away from the things that distract us from family. Those were the days we played games. Maybe you have family game night. It's very important for us, though, to be purposeful about what we're doing. Because if we're not purposeful, if we don't put it in our calendar, if we don't put it in our brain as this is important for us, then it won't happen. So it's imperative that we become purposeful about that. In regard to finances, are we purposeful about that? Frankly, there's a lot of folks that just sort of, again, just drift through life. And again, there's people that make millions of dollars a year and there's people that make $30,000 a year. And that doesn't really matter. If you have found your career that you love and you enjoy, that's fantastic. But there's this little thing we call retirement at the end of your life, where we have to be able to provide for ourselves. So being purposeful, even at the beginning of your career, boy, I wish I could go back to 20 years old, right, and just start sticking $100 a month away. They've done studies where they found that if you put $100 a month away from 20 to 30, you'll have more money at the end than if you start at 50 and put $1,000 a month away. And that's just simple economics, the way compound interest and investments work, right? But learning about those kinds of things, picking up books that will teach you about investments finance and compound interest and those kinds of things. One of the gentlemen here on our staff yesterday pulled me aside and he said, that guy today changed my life. And I said, what guy? And he said, the real estate guy. And I said, really, how? And he said, I grew up without a dad. I've never heard any of this stuff. Like, I don't get any of this stuff. And he's like, I need to learn this kind of thing. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it was great, right? And so, but it's about being purposeful, because again, if we're not purposeful, you wake up one day, you're 30 and you have nothing in the bank. And then you wake up at 40 and you got nothing in the bank. And you wake up at 50 and you got nothing in the bank. And you're saying, I only got about 15 more years. We better get under control here. So I want to challenge us to be purposeful about our finances and our financial life, learning, growing, and applying, right? If you can't afford a Louis bag, don't buy the Louis bag, right? It's important for us to understand these things. And then lastly, freedom. Be purposeful about freedom. And I would suggest this. Get involved in your local party's work. You know, the real business of politics is done at the grassroots. It's done at the precinct level. How many precinct officers do we have here today? Look at that. These folks, give them a big round of applause. You are the unsung heroes of our movement, because they have little segments all across the city. That's their segment. They're the officer of that. It's about finding out who people are and getting them out to vote. Sign up to become a precinct officer. It's not a ton of work, but it's important work, and you can be purposeful about it. Be sure to donate to the candidates that you believe in. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a lot of money. When I ran for the U.S. Senate, I can't tell you a single check anybody wrote me. Can't tell you a single check. I remember one donation I got. It came in a little envelope. It was about this big, you know, those little white envelopes. And scrawled on the outside in little old lady handwriting was to our office. And I opened it up, and it was 3 crumpled $1 bills. It's the only donation I ever remember getting. Was that woman gave what she could. Reminds me of the story of the widow's mite. She gave what she could. Give what you can. If you can only give $5, I'm telling you, candidates appreciate that. If you can max out, they appreciate that. But get involved in some way. Come to events like this, bring people to events like this. You know, watching Fox News isn't enough. I'm very involved in politics. I watch Hannity every night. That's great. It's not going to change your world. So get involved any way that you can, because we need all hands on deck. But the only way to have a great awakening in the United States of America collectively is to have a great awakening in each individual's life. You need to have a great awakening yourself. First and foremost, I sometimes do this when I'm speaking. I hold this up. This is the mirror. You need to look in the mirror and say, am I really committed and devoted to God first? God first. Not this and God or that and God. God first, and everything else takes care of itself. I want to challenge you to deeply consider how you can allow God into your life. And I know that we're at various stages. Some of you have walked with God for 70 years, and some of you are sitting here going, Chris, what in the world are you talking about? And you know what? That's okay. Totally okay, because God takes us wherever we are. Just like when I was a 17-year-old drug-addicted, lost kid who just said, I have no idea where I'm going and I'm about to graduate from high school. Save me, and he did. I began to get into ministry. I was a pastor from 1988 to 2002 before I began to speak and write full-time. I've spoken all over the world, 2,500 speeches. I've written 22 books that have been translated into 14 languages. And I believe that the American Freedom Tour is the most important thing I've ever done. Not only because of what we're talking about politically, but what we're talking about spiritually. Because the political world is influenced by the spiritual world. Those of you who know the book, it says our battle isn't against flesh and blood. Our battle isn't against Democrats. In the ultimate position, our battle's not against flesh and blood. It's against the powers, the principalities, the forces of darkness that drive people to engage in systems like communism and socialism and those kinds of things. For 5 years, longer than that, but for 5 years, conservatives have been beaten down. We've been maligned. We've been told that we're sexist, racist. We've been told that we're transphobic, homophobic, all the ists and the phobics. We're here to encourage you. We're here to inspire you. We're here to stand up for conservatism and conservative ideals. We're here to challenge you. We're here to encourage you. We want to make this a place where you can look around and say, I'm not alone. Because for 5 years we've been beaten up, and for the last year and a half we've been locked down and beaten up and told how bad we are. And we're looking at ourselves saying, am I really that bad? I want to create something with my friends here where we can go all around the country and we can encourage you and tell you, you are not alone. Look around this room and see you are not alone. That we are in the majority and we just need to make our voices heard. It's time to go on offense. You know, Dinesh said it, we've just been too nice. There's a difference between being nice and being good. I saw a thing the other day that said God doesn't need nice people, God needs good people. And sometimes good people aren't necessarily nice. This is just the beginning. You know, I was a pastor from 1988 until 2002 before I began to speak and write full time. And I did over 300 weddings. And one of the lines that I said at almost every single wedding was, this is the wedding, it's not the marriage. The wedding is the easy part. Everybody's happy at the wedding. Everybody loves the wedding. The marriage is the hard part. This is like the wedding. This is the fun part. We get to come, we get to celebrate, we get to get encouraged, we get to do all those kinds of things. But the marriage is the hard part. The marriage is when we walk back out those doors and we become citizen activists again. We will celebrate America, but when you leave here, there's work to do. Your job is to take what you learn here and take it out and continue the movement. Get involved, participate here, and when you leave. As conservatives, we believe in the 4 F's. We believe in strong faith, the power of strong faith. We believe in the stability of strong families. We believe in the importance of strong personal finances. And we believe in a strong commitment to freedom. America was founded by people of faith. Faith is what drove people to come here for freedom of religion and worship. People of faith built the fabric of our society, and not only churches on every corner, but think about it. Hospitals, schools, colleges, universities, orphanages, food banks, and so many other integral parts of our society. And the people of faith have helped out countless billions of people all around the world through our charity, helping other countries, not only as a nation through foreign aid, but individually and with organizations driven by people of faith. The people of faith have helped out countless billions of people all around the world. The family is the core of society. The traditional family is under attack, and I would say that left-wing groups even put in their charters that they want to disrupt the traditional idea of America. You saw that, didn't you, last year? It was in their charter to disrupt the average American family. Men in particular, our husbands, our fathers are under attack. You can watch almost any television show and every man is portrayed as a dolting moron. We need strong male leadership. I love what soccer moms are doing at school boards, but we need some men to also stand up. We need to strengthen our families and help them succeed because they are the smallest and yet most powerful group of people in our country. We want everyone to know how to be better parents, to be better spouses, to be better children. Finances. Now more than ever, conservatives need to take control of their finances. The Biden economy is, of course, terrible, to say the least. Inflation is eating away at our purchasing power. Goods and services prices continue to rise. The Fed just continues to print money. The American Freedom Tour will help conservatives get their finances under their own control. Why is that important? Big government isn't going to take care of you. Corporations are not going to take care of you. Your boss, even if you like him or her, may not be able to take care of you. The chances of Social Security being there for you are virtually none, and they're decreasing every single day. And even if you get it, it isn't much. As conservatives believe in rugged independence and self-reliance, taking care of themselves first and then helping others out of their abundance. The only way you can get to abundance and achieve the American dream is to have the financial means to be able to do it. Conservatives need to learn how money and finances work. They need to understand how financial markets work. They need to learn how investments work. America was born as a capitalist country, and now we face the gravest threat in history as the radical left-wing socialist Democrats seek to gain control in a greater and greater manner. Imagine what financial freedom would feel like if you had it. You'd have the ability to build the wealth and future that lets your family make its own decisions. You don't have to worry whether your corporate job will be there for you. You can make decisions for yourself, everything from simple decisions like when to take a vacation to moral and ethical considerations like whether or not you'll get the vaccine being enforced on you by your employer. There are people that are forced into a moral decision where they have to say, I don't make enough money to go do what I want, so I have to do what they tell me to do. We need to get to a point where we have our own financial independence. You can stay ahead of rapidly climbing inflation. You can fix your car when it breaks down without having to wonder how you'll pay for it. You can send your children to the schools that you want to send them to. You can contribute to charities and even political campaigns that you'd like to contribute to. And lastly, freedom. Without freedom, there is no America. I was talking to a friend of mine in Australia, and I said, my daughter got a religious exemption from her college, and he said, yeah, we can't do that down here. And I said, why not? Because I just think of Australia, Western culture, right? And he says, we don't have freedom of religion here. And I went, you're right. We have freedom of religion. We have freedom of speech. They don't. America was the great experiment of self-government as it became the most powerful country in the history of the world. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to protest are at the foundations of who we are. The time is now to stand up for freedom. When government takes our freedoms, they never give them back. For almost 100 years, the government has increased its reach into our lives to the point of breaking the American people. Well, it's time to go on offense.